Welcome to the SIWIKE Podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE Podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with our new guest host, Dominic. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure. And Dominic comes to us with a background in business education and kind of a recent foray in hospitality. So what would you say that you're up to these days?
Well, at the rector facilities at De La Salle College. It's a private school in Toronto. I've been there for 15 years maybe. And yes, like you were saying, the past years I've been investing in Tulum with some of my partners in AIRBNB rentals, especially in Tulum, and it's very exciting. We actually finished designing a new villa with an emerging architect, and it was very exciting. Now we are in the phase now where we have to transform dream into reality.
Sounds good.
We gotta cope with the gap.
Yeah, for sure. And well, I guess before we get up to there, I'd love to rewind and go back in time and talk a little bit about Dominic as a kid. So what were you like growing up? What are some early fond childhood memories that you remember?
So I was born here, but I moved in Italy when I was 4. So I did all my youth and my studies in Italy, in a small town in South Italy, in Calabria. And as far as I can remember, I was always at the beginning. I was going counter current. Basically, I was always on my own. I was creative. I was playing with my toys, watching a lot of TVs that was concerning my parents. Back then, it was the only thing that they had to concern about.
Yeah.
And slowly I started hang out more with my siblings. I was the oldest.
Okay.
And playing and stuff like that, getting into sports and be more social. Actually, I think that maybe being more introvert by myself is what pushed my dad at the age of 12 to decide that I should enter the workforce in the family restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, so technically, I kind of was. I've been always in hospitality.
All right.
Yes, and when kids my age they were having fun on weekends, holidays, and summer, I was there working and serving the clients as a waiter. And in Italy, I don't know if you know that, but high schools, they are specialized. So I did all my high school in business. I would have loved to go to do in the artistic high school, but for the little bubble where I was, it wasn't going nowhere. It wasn't useful at all back then. And then my dad directed me to the business side, which to me was useful at the end. And then when I finished high school, there is grade 13. So when I was 18, there's the decision between coming here or go to university there. My dad, of course, he didn't want to lose me, so he convinced me to stay there. But still, I went all the way to the opposite. I went all the way in North Italy, and I did the business in Genoa.
Right.
And it was harder than I expected. Remember, I was coming from a small town in South Italy, but depressed area, going all the way to a big city in Genoa, and my first year, mainly the first semester, was the issues were like socially and actually at university. Socially, I would say because maybe it was totally I was self-conscious about my southern accent.
Mm.
And then I also tend to stutter as well.
Okay.
So this combined, it was making me feel insecure, and I was feeling a little bit of prejudice to the others. But in the long run, it was all in my head. They were all friendly there.
Sure.
So, and for university there, I really had a hard time because in high school, I was studying basically 1 or 2 months a year towards the end just to get my marks, and that's it. So I failed miserably twice on exam, and I got to the point where the intersection where you say, I'm not what people thinking, okay, boy, I gotta go home and work with a family restaurant, or I can do more. So I decided to not to say anything on struggles and basically segregate myself in my condo and in the rental I was renting, and for 20 days exactly to do public law. That was 600 pages. I still remember. 20 days, 600 pages. It was all oral exam. And in Italy, they love using a lot of big words. So the exam had to be very proficient. It wasn't just about answering the question. And surprisingly, even to myself, I got almost 100%.
Wow.
So I left the university basically singing We Are the Champions. And to be honest, that was a crucial moment for me because it made me realize that with my planning and with the dedication, you can accomplish almost everything, and all by myself. So
that's awesome.
I think it's that moment could be in any scenario. It's something that everybody should experience, that they need to do it by themselves. So to figure out what they are made of.
Sounds good. Sometimes the biggest hardships in one's life becomes the best thing that ever happened to you, because you often learn and grow from those. I'd love if we kind of rewound a little bit and talked a little bit more. So young kid, 12 years old, working family restaurant and stuff. Can you describe a little bit about that experience? Because not everybody has that sort of upbringing, right? So it sounds like you didn't really have much of a childhood, at least kind of the teenage years. You were on the weekends helping out at the restaurant, things like that. Can you describe a little bit about like your thinking in there, and what were your prospects for the future at that point?
At that moment, until basically I worked until I came to here. Even when I was going there on vacation, I was working. And to be honest, it was never about money. And this is something that was very important for me. Yes, initially when you were like 12, 16, and you get paid, you put the money, you spend it for yourself.
Sure.
But then I somehow, thanks to my dad, the mindset was I was helping the family. I was even getting at one point I even stopped getting the tips, and I was giving to the others. But all those years I hated it. But what I learned there was some sort of Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid. So whatever I learned with my dad was important for the for my future, and still things I've learned there, I apply them now.
Yeah.
So sorry, go.
I was going to say, what I took from that is to make the most of what you're into. Like Mr. Miyagi, Daniel-san, he wax on, wax off, had to paint the fence for those that watch the Karate Kid reference. It was grueling work, day in and day out, probably thankless, but you were able to make the best out of it, and it probably taught you a lot of good work ethic and a whole bunch of other things that help you along the way.
I'll give you an example. The first time my dad was always saying, if the customer has to ask you for something, it's already too late. You have to predict what they want. So this was the main one. And recently I learned something similar. I was reading Think and Grow Rich. And I think it was Napoleon that said you need to learn how to serve people first, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was very important. Then yes, as you would say, thankfully my dad taught me by not showing preference. He always put me at the same level of the staff, if not less.
Yeah.
So he showed me to respect anybody, to always be humble, and to be honest, that was if it wasn't for working with him, I would have spent any time with my parents, basically, because they were always stuck in the restaurants.
Yeah. That's awesome. So it seems like it was good family time together. And I love what you said about customer service, that if the customer had to say something, then it's already too late in terms of predicting and all that. Because that's really what good customer service is. Right now, well, we live in kind of the Toronto area. People just expect like service. I don't think it's good. but if those that can actually predict and know, and you don't have to ask for anything, that really amounts to good customer service.
It's like it's like an intuitive software, right? It always it has what you don't even think that you need to have until the moment that you actually find it out. And to be honest, that this strategy can be used. I use it even with my wife. I use it with my kids.
Yeah.
I try to predict what my wife needs.
Yeah.
Because if she asks, it's too late, right? First of all, they never ask, to be honest.
Yeah.
But for my kids, I always constantly think, what tools do they need for the future? And I start planning what I can say that gets stuck in the brain for the future, even if they find it useless at the moment.
For sure. Yeah, and I find that cultivating that skill of, call it empathy, prediction, intuitiveness, whatever you want to call it, and that mindset of service can be so helpful for people to be successful in the future. And I love if we went into kind of high school. You mentioned that high school is specialized, and you were put into the business one instead of kind of the artistic one that you had wanted. So can you walk us through a little bit about like what was going on in your head, or was there really just no choice? Dad put you into the business one and you had to go through it, or what was that process to kind of say, I want to go down this path, and Dad is forcing me to go down this other path?
It wasn't really forcing.
Okay.
At the moment, remember, it was like a very depressed area, so you think small. And when you think small, you do what's useful there. And in my dad's plans, was for him. I was going to take over the restaurant.
Yeah.
With the rest of my cousins, so it made sense to go there and not to waste my time in learning how to draw more, and in the future to become an architect, because I was inspired to do that, into designing things. That's why sooner or later I end up working the facilities at the school, because in a way I design things as well here, processes and spaces in a smaller scale than I like that, of course.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I think that business and finances is something that should be taught even more in high schools, if you're not even earlier stages.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some schools are putting in like financial literacy, which is basically business for yourself and things like that, but even how like businesses work in general should be probably a core, even if you're going into STEM or humanities or something like that. I think that would be super helpful as well.
Yeah, the personal finances and domestic finances are very important.
For sure. I love it. We kind of fast forward a little bit. So you mentioned a time in university where, you almost failed. You have now this exam looming, 600-page of material that you have to get through for an oral exam, and you kind of shutter yourself up in for like 20 days to learn it. Can you walk us through that process? Like how did you get that, I guess, determination, or what was going through your mind as you were like saying, you know what, I got to do this? Like what was that experience like?
I didn't want to fail.
Of course.
Thinking now, at the moment, at the moment you can think that was now it's like it's okay. I didn't want to fail, and I proved myself right. At the time, it was shameful to fail, so I had no other option to try harder. And sometimes the best things they come when you have no options. The only option is to move forward. So what I had no method of studying whatsoever. So I had to figure out what was working. So I had 20 days to learn that, and I divided the full book, the 600 pages, into 15. Divided in 15 days to study, and then I left myself 5 days more to go over and over and over. And that was like 10 hours a day breaks. Mm-hmm. I gained so much weight because I wasn't going anywhere. But it worked out. It was worth it, because after that exam, everything else fell into place. It went very well. Yeah, especially confidence.
Sounds good. It sounds like the typical student mentality where you wait and cram like the night before. Obviously, you were kind of forced into the situation in a slightly different way. So maybe the lessons learned there is to like spread it out, take your time, take things seriously earlier on, and the more that you can learn upfront, the better.
Yes, I always, in every exam, I was prepared at least 2 days earlier.
Yeah. Definitely some words of wisdom for students. I don't know if they'll take that, but it's unfortunately something that they have to deal with. And I'd love you to share a little bit about the transition between university and De La Salle. So obviously it's a continent away. What was that process like to land your role?
Actually, there was another step. I went to do
okay.
I lived 4 years in Rome. I did a master's there, and I worked for 3 years there before coming here. Yes. And the reason why I came here is because, first of all, I'm horrible at traditional interviews. I did, in 2 years, I did 40 interviews with the major multinational companies. Bombed them all. The only 2 I succeeded were the ones that were non-traditional interviews with the manager. One was a Fendi for an internship, and one was the consulting company I ended up working. Basically, it was the manager herself doing scenarios, and seeing how what your skills in problem solving and teamwork were. And I worked, but after I got the job, I found myself for the first time, I found myself in a dead end. So I had a permanent job, which is the dream job for every Italian there. Permanent job, that's the expiration there. And I was in Rome, in a big, beautiful city that I love so much, but I wasn't satisfied. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I think it was anxiety. I found myself, every time I was ending my shift of 12 hours for work, I would enter my car and I was screaming. Yeah, screaming because I was unhappy. So I started planning, saving like crazy. The learning English. My English wasn't good at all.
Right.
I was renting movies and TV shows doing English subtitles, getting ready for that.
Okay.
Then I came here in 2008. And when I came here, I did 1 or 2 months of ESL.
Okay.
And I stayed away from my family just to speed up my process in learning English, because I knew if I was staying with my family, my learning would have been much slower. And I was prepared to go back to school to work in restaurants, but then I got lucky at DSAL. I was going there initially to learn English. I was attending classes. At one point, I was supplying as well. And I was in the right place at the right moment. I was temporary thanks to the brother Domenic, which at the time he was the principal. I was working for the summer caretaker. And then there was an opening in accounting, and I took it. I took it. He gave it to me. He gave me a chance to prove myself. And you need a lot of those people in your life that give you a chance, that bet on you. So there's some things that you can do alone, that you have to do alone, but some things that you need help with. You need like the good people in your life. And yes, and then again, I found myself in the same situation. I have a job, a good job, and good salary. But at some point, I started realizing that I was in the same situation that I was in Rome. So I started looking for opportunities to grow within the organization. So I noticed that there were buildings that they weren't utilized 100% improperly by the school body. So I proposed some tweak renovations in one building. They were all happy. And ended up being for a short time the junior school. And then Brother Dark saw these skills, so he decided to promote me as a director of facilities. And then I boosted the rentals from almost zero to $500,000 a year. So it was very good. I was given this trust and opportunity by Bro Dominic, and until today, every day I see how can not betray that trust, and how can improve the school, the facilities that will benefit the school and the kids.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing story. So someone coming in, you had that determination and dedication to, come all the way here. Obviously, there was some frustration involved, screaming in your car that kind of pushed you there. And then it turned into with a bit of luck. And I was chatting with someone earlier about luck, and it's really kind of preparation meeting an opportunity. So even as a caretaker, as a caretaker, you were there, right? So you needed to have that opportunity, but you also took it where you could say, hey, you know what? There's a role in accounting. Let me take it. And then again, when there's facilities that aren't being used, hey, I can do that, and I can show my value. And if you do more than you're expected to, then opportunities tend to present themselves as well. So it seems like that there's been an amazing transition, amazing growth over the years. And then most recently, I guess you started doing something a little bit different. So going back to maybe your hospitality roots, wondering if you can share a little bit about how stuff at Adventura started.
So initially, actually, I saw the opportunity on Airbnb when it was launched. And in the property of the school, there is a big mansion that it looks like a castle. So I started doing that to rent that on weekends plus events. It was working amazingly. So that was my first introduction to Airbnb. Then, because the school needed a building more and more and more, we just abandoned it. How did I end up investing in Tulum, Mexico? Was because I would say in 2016, I always wanted to look. I was a dreamer at the end, right? So I always wanted to have a property that where it was always summer and by the ocean, because
Mm.
I grew up by the my backyard was the sea,
Yeah.
basically. So I started looking into that, but then combined with it, I realized soon that we cannot count on the salary alone here in the city.
Mm.
And I didn't want to find another job because this meant repeating making the same choices that my parents did, basically. They were always stuck at work. And I wanted
Mhm.
to be home to see my kids growing and to give them input and to help my wife. So I stumbled into Tulum that it was booming. The return on investments were super high, it was 20%. And but it wasn't the right time
Mm.
because I was living in a townhouse. The lender I had wouldn't give didn't have the HELOC, the home equity
Okay.
line.
Yeah.
So the right opportunity came in during COVID when everything
Mm.
boomed and the interest went very low.
Right.
And it's funny because 2 years before, I befriended now is my friend here, Adrian, and talking, he was telling me that he bought a lot of land in Tulum, and he was going to build 12 villas and one condo. And
Okay.
at the end, it was another luck. It was luck again, right? So, but at that time, I wasn't ready yet. So we became friends. But then, when these interest rates went low, the real estate went high, I didn't move.
Mm.
And to be honest, if it wasn't for Adrian, because he was from here, it would have made it would have been much scarier to invest in another country that you don't know anybody, basically.
Right.
So it's always about people that you meet in your life, and your own skills as well. So it has to be at the right ratio, basically.
Yeah.
And then,
So it's
then actually, whatever I was projecting in monthly revenue, it was dead on.
Mm.
Obviously, it hasn't been roses and flowers because there's always issues related. But then we're so excited that we bought a lot where we want to build the new mega villa. And last fall we bought another villa
okay.
as well. So everything is going amazingly. This is the passive income / pension for me and my wife,
Right.
and moving forward in the future for my kids, and will allow us to be more relaxed.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting insights in there where really what I took from it is to surround yourself with good people, and you tend to be more lucky because there's all these opportunities that come in that had you surround yourself with just the normal average person, most of them aren't investing in Tulum. But if you find interesting people doing interesting things, then sometimes that luck manifests itself more and more.
Especially when
And
you spend your free time searching and searching and searching, and then when you ask a lot of questions to people,
yeah,
and then the universe does its own trick and connects you with people.
for sure. Yeah, some folks talk about the concept of the law of attraction, where
Yes.
if you like dream it and envision it. So Think and Grow Rich is very big on that. I'm actually more of a fan of the law of action, where by researching, by connecting, by talking to people, then the universe provides the ability for you to have this kind of luck. But if you just sit there in your apartment condo and think and hope, and pray. Like as much visioning as you can do, it's probably not going to happen. But if you're out there and immersing yourself in the areas that you want to be, then it's far more likely to happen.
Action is important.
For sure.
You can have the best ideas. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't take action, all you have is just your ideas.
For sure. Yeah, I know in the entrepreneurship world, they say ideas are a dime a dozen, and it's the execution that really makes things. So I appreciate you sharing your story. And obviously, there's a lot more to look forward to later on. And I'd love, as we kind of close off the episode, for you to share any SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier. Obviously, you shared a whole bunch based on your learnings in your journey. But is there any like one or two that you want to emphasize on or highlight or bring new on advice you'd want to give to the young Dominics out there at different points in their life, trying to make sense of their career journeys?
I would say yes. Listen to your parents first of all.
Yeah.
Not blindly though. They have they could be wise, but ultimately it has to be your own decision process. You're gonna learn basically how to think by yourself, because your own what comes from your mouth has to be your own thoughts, not what somebody else did. So that's why it's important to take action, because when you take action, you live experiences, and they are your own experiences. However, others' experiences are always good, and if I have to say something to a younger self or myself, is I would have loved to be introduced to motivational books and business books like yours earlier, even when I was a teen, because Jim Rohn says, one book can save you 5 years, right? And I'm reading and listening to this book just now. Another thing is it's important, as I mentioned, to have influential people in your life. And I had several. The important ones was my father was Brother Dominic. It was allowed me to risk it and then do mistakes. And it is also was my biggest fan. And my wife. It's important for younger people to realize that having a partner, the right partner, is very important. It doesn't have to be somebody that has a lot of common with you. Actually, the more different the person it is, the better it is, because by having different mentality, it makes you question yourself more, and the other person can catch mistakes that you would do. Instead, when you think alike, just go ahead with the same mistake. It could be even in parenting, and you still have the kids. So it's important to have the right partner. And I've been very lucky, because wives they tend to improve you, and it's very good actually. When I came here in Canada, I was like a diamond in the rough. She showed me the Canadian way, and she polished me basically, and I'm very grateful for her for doing this. Besides giving me 3 beautiful children. But like I said before, beside the partner, influencing people, house financing, personal finances, booking, books are very important. And we need to learn. The last one I would say is we need to learn faster the concept of deferring self gratification, because I find that nowadays is the biggest issue. It could be a big wall that stops all your potential. Deciding to have something now that basically it will close a lot of doors for your potential in your future.
For sure, a lot of great words of wisdom in there. If I go back to what you said, like this deferring self-gratification, there's a lot of the YOLO, you live only once type of thing out there. Well, let's just do it because like why not? But yeah, that might help you in the moment, but longer term it can be challenging. And I had an interesting discussion with someone where humans are one of the few creatures in the world that can actually do that, the self-gratification, because animals really just do go for the now, right? Yeah, you have the squirrels that save for the winter later on, but we sometimes need to do that, and that'll help us in the long term, especially with things like personal finance, where if you start saving early, then compound interest. So picking up those good finance books, the motivational ones like with Jim Rohn, Think and Grow Rich, that sort of thing, then you'll get exposed to concepts like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, that sort of thing. And then you learn to surround yourself with amazing people so that luck comes to you. So a lot of those things are amazing. And really making sure you listen to mom and dad because they are important. Their ideas and their experiences are important, but as you said, not blindly, right? Because at the end of the day, it still needs to be you that owns your own life and your career. And the aspect of having a great partner, yeah, I think that's super important. And I think you said something important where a lot of folks look for partners where they have common interests, where instead you should have common values. And actually, it's better if the interests are a little bit different because then you get to do new things.
Yeah.
But the values, they have to be aligned for sure. And then maybe you'll find someone that can polish you into a diamond as well. So thanks for sharing those words of wisdom. And I guess if folks want to learn more about you, some of the adventures, or maybe rent one of the villas in Tulum, where could they find out more about you, and where could they connect if they want to learn more?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Domenic Salerno, and the name of the company on Instagram, it's Aventuras Villas, 2 S's. Yes.
Sounds good. And we'll definitely link all of that in the show notes. And thanks, Domenic, for sharing your journey. And hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Take care.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.